I start at the beginning of Nora. Where were you born and raised?
So me and my twin were actually born in Florida, like Orlando, Florida, and our mom moved us out of there after like 2 years when my dad skipped town, and we ended up getting raised in Ohio actually, and we were there like all through high school, and we were in the foster system pretty much from age like 5 until we graduated high school and stuff.
Oh wow.
Um,
So you moved to Ohio with your mom, and then at 5 went into foster care.
Yeah, we went into foster care when we were like 5, and we were pretty much in foster care, like I said, until we graduated high school and got out of there. But it wasn't really a pleasant experience.
Yeah, my guess is you're 5 years old. You remember
Yeah,
that.
a lot of stuff really sticks, and a lot of stuff is I don't really remember like some parts of it. I think probably for good reason, but like I just mostly remember being in a lot of different foster homes with my brother, and then when we settled down in one when we were like 11, that was the one we were in until we graduated high school.
Gotcha.
And it was like ironically the most stable one, but also the worst one, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Like all at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the parents there were just kind of like gathering foster kids because they would get paid a check for each kid that they were fostering, and then I guess the way it works is they would get paid a bigger check if they like adopted these kids out of foster care, so they would try to like adopt as many kids out of foster care as possible while still trying to have as many foster kids as possible.
So how many kids were at that home that where you're kind of?
So it would have been me, my twin, Zach, Andrew, Laren, Wayne, Shauna, Jenna, Penny, Kayla, and Nicole was there. She was like 16 when we moved in, so she was like gone within 2 years. But
So that's 11.
yeah,
Was it pretty chaotic? My guess is.
yeah, it was chaotic. Because the foster dad guy like really prided himself on dealing with level 3 foster kids, which are like the destructive, angry ones. And like those weren't like exclusively the ones he had, but even having like 2 or 3 of those in a house with 8 or 9 other kids is going to create just all kinds of chaos.
Yeah.
Like we saw the police pretty regularly, especially for a couple of the kids, because they would just like destroy their rooms and trash stuff, and yeah.
So did you and your brother kind of stick together?
Yeah, that was kind of the only way that we really made it out of the foster system, like together. I don't really like. I feel bad for the kids that didn't have like a sibling with them, because I don't know how I would have made it without my brother.
Yeah. Well, what were some of the like good parts, if any, that you remember that pop out that you guys did for fun?
Well, like since we lived on the Children's Services main campus, there was a really huge like 2.5 acre backyard, and so
Nice.
we were usually allowed to just like go out back and do our own thing if we wanted to. So we tried to spend as much time either like outside or playing video games as possible, just to sort of eat up the time. And I remember when we first moved in with them, we had gotten this big Lego set from our mom for Christmas, and we played with that for like a couple years, I think. Yeah.
Nice. So were you guys all were you in high school, middle school, high school? Did you guys do all that stuff?
So we moved in with them when we were 11.
Okay.
So that would have been middle school, and then we were there like all through high school graduation. It was the set of school. Like it was Pleasant School District in Marion, Ohio. Like I said, it was the most stable, ironically, because like before that we moved around to a lot of different schools and a lot of different foster homes. So it was kind of nice to be able to be at one school for like the rest of our whatever, like normal education.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I was talking to somebody else, and they were talking about how they're in foster care, and like each year it'd be like 6 months to a year they'd like go to a new family. So they never they maybe build attachments a little bit, and then you're off to the next.
Yeah, that's what it is for a lot of kids in that system. I think the reason we ended up stuck in the house and the family that we did is because the family that we were with was like, they were lauded as like the best foster parents in the state or whatever, but you know, they didn't really understand or know like what they were doing behind like closed doors, you know.
Right.
Like I remember John used to watch like a lot of UFC, and he used to really like practicing on like me and Mike and Andrew, even though like even before we were like older teenagers. I don't know, he I guess he just liked to like walk up behind us and like put us in chokeholds and tell us to try to get out of it, and just like practice on us basically, you know. And because like we weren't level 3 kids, you know, we weren't like tearing up the house and screeching and going to JDC every other weekend. So I guess it did help him to deal with those kids, but it was.
Hey, John was your foster dad?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, so when you hit 18, where do you go?
So when we turned 18, my twin. So they had decided, I guess they were doing it to try to put a divide between us, because when he turned 16 or 17, they like let him go to driver's ed, and they bought him a car and all that stuff. And
oh, wow.
And but then for me, they told me basically to screw off, and I had to wait until I was 18 to like go and do driver's ed, and then I had to pay for my own car. And so like when Mike turned 18, he had his car, and he had made some friends already, so he like went and started living with them and paying rent. And I had saved up some money because I was already working at Wendy's for a couple years, and so I went and bought a car, and I ended up staying in my car for a couple months, I think, before I actually ended up moving back in with my twin, and then we got an apartment together for a while. But honestly, like anything, like even if I didn't have a car, anything would have been better than staying there. Just cause I don't know, it was just all that crap. Like on top of them being really heavily religious parents, like they really liked to push that onto everybody, and yeah, that was.
I was gonna ask, was it like a Christian, Mormon?
Christian, yeah.
Christian.
But like we went to this little church that was like, it was like its own sect of Christianity, I guess.
Right.
I don't know how to describe it, but they didn't really like identify as any of the other major like Christian titles. There was just like this weird pastor there, and they had a congregation of like 30 or 40, and it was mostly like really old people. And I don't know, the pastor was like, he always acted like he was like this cool youth pastor guy, but he always came off as like really creepy to me, honestly. Like there was one night when me and Mike, I think we were like 15 or 16, and like our foster mom woke us all up because she was like screaming about there being a demon in one of the kids' rooms. And so they like called Pastor Greg, and he came over and did this whole like fucking 8-hour exorcism bullshit. And meanwhile, like the foster mom's like screaming and freaking out and talking about how it's in the corner and all this crap. And Mike and I are trying not to like laugh our asses off basically, and it was just absurd.
I'm so glad you guys had like the whereabouts and awareness just to like laugh.
I mean, but what do you do, you know, like
I don't laugh or cry, I guess.
They're supposed to be your parental figure, you know, and they're screaming about like fictional, invisible monsters that only they can see. Like,
yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So you get an apartment with your twin, and then where do you go from there?
yeah. So we got an apartment together, and we were both working, and so I think we stayed in that apartment together for some amount. I can't remember quite. I think we were there for like a year is what it was actually, because I remember he met some girl and moved in with her, and right when I started college, it was like a month or two in that I met my first girlfriend, and her and I ended up getting a place together, which was like, it was like a 500 square foot like second story apartment with like a balcony and a loft and stuff, and it was only like $300 a month in Ohio at the time, and
Nice.
that was insane.
Yeah, that's insane. Well, I guess what year was this?
So this would have been 2010, 2011.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it makes me just, like, when I see rent prices here, I just don't understand it at all. Like,
Yeah.
because if the landlords there were in Ohio were like paying their bills with $300 of rent every month, like what the hell are these people needing like 2 G's for every month from everybody? It's absurd.
Yeah. Lots of people wonder that, including
Yeah.
myself.
But yeah, so the apartment that my twin he stayed with her for a while, and like I don't know, he kind of bounced between places because like he broke up with her a few times, and like he stayed with his friends sometimes, and he ended up actually moving out here like 2 years before I did.
Oh, okay.
And I was actually out here visiting my twin 1 month, and we got the news that our biological mom had like passed away back in Ohio because the doctors there had like prescribed her conflicting medications, and so she had a heart attack and an aneurysm at the same time. And so like they basically showed up at the door and like gave us her ashes and said sorry, and that was it. And my twin was already living in Seattle at the time, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna fucking go back to Ohio. Like, that place is a shithole, and like I have nobody left there anyways. So I ended up just pretty much staying out here.
And how long ago was that?
That would be when I was 24, almost 25. So it would have been like February 6th, 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I met the girl that I'm currently with. I met her like a month or two later, because my twin moved into a different apartment on like it was one of the college frat houses or party houses, I think is what they're called. Not a frat house, a party house. And she was like living there with my twin, and that was how I met Britta, the girl that I'm with right now. And so I moved in again with my twin, I guess, which was nice. Like, I don't know, like I guess I kind of followed my twin around because like he was one of the only constants in my life, and like he was the only family I really had left, and so it was nice to always, have that family near.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we shared that apartment for a couple years, and then Britta and I got a couple places intermittently with her working at Starbucks and me doing like odd jobs, and then it was like 3 years ago that I got a job at like this gourmet like burger joint called Little Big Burger. And when I started working there, she started working there. Like, I got her a job there like a couple months later, and she took the manager position that I was trying to get, actually. But I guess it didn't really matter because like COVID hit, and they shut down the store that we were working at, and we were told that they pretty much didn't have hours at the other store for new employees, so that we were pretty much screwed out of our jobs. And then we couldn't pay our rent at the place we were at, which sucked, but also like it was haunted, so like I don't know.
Oh, did you say haunted?
Well, like a dude had like hung himself in the attic like a month before we moved in, and like I don't know, I never saw anything like stuff moving or like creepy screams, but like I don't know if you've ever been like in a place where someone's like passed away recently. It's just got like a really like morbid energy, I guess, a feel to it,
I can imagine it's not like the brightest, happiest
Right,
place.
like it's not like a comfortable place to be, I guess, emotionally. It would be a better word, yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
So yeah, I remember our landlord sending us the text message to kick us out of there. He texted us and told us that he needed the house for his son because his son had just gotten married, and so they wanted to move into the house, and so he was kicking us out because of his son wanting it and because we weren't paying rent, and we tried to argue about it and about the whole COVID, like not really, if you can't pay your rent, they're not really able to kick you out because of the whole COVID thing, and he didn't really seem to give a flying crap. So I guess we're kind of like working on a lawsuit against him right now because we have like all the text messages that he sent us saved, and we have like when we were paying rent, we have that. We just like have all of our stuff that we can saved, and a lawyer friend of ours is helping us figure it out because because we got kicked out of there and lost our jobs and stuff, like that's pretty much what put us on the street. Because we were living in her car for like a year, and then I remember she had gone inside to like a grocery shop, and I think it was, and she had parked in parked on the street or something. It was like just a crappy parking spot, and her car got towed, and we didn't have the money to get it out, and it had like all our belongings in it at the time, and we didn't know about the whole. There's a law where if you live in your vehicle, you can like tell that to the tow company, and they'll contact a lawyer or a judge, I think, and once they confirm that like you live in your vehicle, they'll just get your vehicle out for free for you. And we weren't really like aware of that at the time, and so we were like, well, we don't have money to get that car out, so like we were pretty much just screwed, and that was what kind of put us on the streets. And
so what was the this was in Seattle, and what season was it?
So when we originally got put out, it would have been fall.
I mean, so you were just like, all right, we got to find a place to sleep somewhere tonight.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Well, so Britta, she had this friend that was a mechanic, and I guess he had lost his shop recently because of just a lack of business, and so he was like living in an RV over by it was near Gasworks, by like Ivar's Salmon House. There's those UW parking lots, you know, and like he had his RV parked there, and like a couple of his friends had their RVs parked there, and so like we went over there like the night that we lost the rest of everything, and like we went over there to like hang out, and you smoke some weed, you know, and just like talk and stuff. And Josh told us that there was like space there if we wanted to like set up a tent or whatever, so that way we at least had a place to sleep. And I guess, I don't know, going from sleeping in like a house and then to sleeping in a car and then to sleeping in a 2-person tent that's barely like 8 foot by fucking 8 foot by not tall enough to stand up in, like whatever size that is. Just it's a big adjustment, and it's very uncomfortable, and it makes it very difficult to do anything really, because like not only do you not have an address, but like we didn't have income, and we just didn't have all the normal amenities that people have, you know. Like it's not easy to have showers and have a place to like store your food or your things. Yeah, it makes it really, really difficult to be able to get back on track in any way.
Yeah. I can imagine, just getting a decent night's sleep.
Yeah.
Or not getting a decent night's sleep for days on end.
Yeah.
So where are you guys at now?
So right now, Britta set up like a lean-to, like over by our friend's RV over there, which is just like a couple of cardboard signs and like a blanket over top of it and a blanket underneath it, and that's where she like kicks it and sleeps and stuff. And I haven't really slept there yet because I'm just running around trying to figure out getting my car fixed and trying to like liquidate the rest of the stuff that I have in my storage unit. so that I can make some kind of money. And we're also we've been talking to the tiny house community people for like 8 or 9 months, trying to get into a tiny house just over and over and over and over, and that just keeps failing basically. There's always some excuse or reason, like they don't have a tiny house available, or I don't know. It's just I don't see like, because we've been swept out of like 3 different places, and when they sweep you out of a place, they offer you housing supposedly, but the housing that we got offered was like hotel vouchers and crap like that. And like that, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say crap, it's better than nothing, and it does help to have a couple of weeks like off the streets, but ultimately it's not a permanent solution, really. It doesn't really, I mean, it's a reprieve for sure, but like,
just so I understand what a hotel voucher is, it's like it's a 2-week, you can stay in this hotel for 2 weeks and then you got to go kind of thing.
yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha.
Or whatever like amount of time they allot you.
Okay, so it could be more, it could be less, kind of.
Yeah. I don't think I've heard of it being longer than 2 weeks, but I mean, it could be wrong. This homelessness thing is kind of new for me,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Tell me a little bit about a sweep. You said you've experienced 3, and
so
what happens?
basically, I guess the best way to understand it is, you'll notice there's spots around Seattle where there's like congregations of like tents or RVs, like groups of homeless people, and that's because, like, at least for the most part, people, regardless of their situation, will always try to congregate into groups, because it's safer to have friends and a sense of community and stuff. Like, you can help each other out with, if you have water and somebody doesn't, stuff like that. And what they do when they sweep it is, the first thing they tend to do is they'll send these vans for like the first couple of weeks, like every like 3 or 4 days, and they're called the Hope Vans. And I joke with my friends a lot about it, that like they're basically the harbingers of death, because as soon as you start seeing the Hope Vans show up and offering you those shitty little paper bag meals, which is like old ass bread and like somehow flavorless bologna. I don't understand how. It's worse than prison food, and I've been to prison, so like. But they offer you like these little sandwich meal bags that are crappy, and they always have this overabundance of socks for some reason that they're always trying to pawn off on people. And that's about it. And they'll start showing up, and then usually after about a month of them showing up twice a week, they'll put out a flyer that says that like relatively soon, basically the police are going to show up in force, and then the city's like garbage people or whatever are also going to show up with them, and like you basically need to have like all your shit packed and out of there by the time they show up, because if you don't, like the garbage people and the police, when they show up, they're just going to start tossing shit in the dumpsters, and like whatever you don't have packed up or ready to leave, like you pretty much should consider it a loss. And every sweep I've been in has pretty much been complete chaos, because despite, like, they'll usually give like a week or 2 warnings, like, don't get me wrong, but like everybody out here pretty much is a day-to-day survivor, like they wake up every day and they're like, okay, like I gotta start all over again, like I gotta go, wash clothes, take a shower, get water, food, like whatever they gotta do every single day. It's not the same as like having a home where you have that stuff like right there at your fingertips, or like your food's accessible, like, yeah. And so like usually by the time that the sweep people come to sweep everything, like nobody's really ever ready for it, and it causes a lot of chaos and crying and screaming, and there's always that one person that's always like screaming in the police officers' faces and trying to be super edgy and trying to like egg them on into like attacking them or whatever. And I don't know, it's just usually always a shit show where a lot of people's stuff gets thrown away, and ultimately like it pretty much accomplishes nothing, because every sweep I've seen, usually within a month or 2, everybody's pretty much like right back at that spot. So it doesn't really do anything except piss people off.
And so when you have left it previously, you just kind of go to the next spot, right? around the corner, wherever it is.
So
Everyone kind of just scatters.
sometimes people scatter. I guess it depends on. It depends on like if the community people in the community that's getting swept. It depends on if there's like petty arguments or fights going on. Like if everybody's arguing or bitching at each other or whatever. Like sometimes they'll scatter and like I've noticed that eventually most of the time they'll end up coming back together, even if they do scatter at first. But like it's hard to say where, like, because when we've been swept the 3 times that we were swept, we didn't really just like go to the next nearest spot. We tried to well, the first time was like basically a giant shit show because we had like basically taken a big canopy tent, and like we had put like walls of like blankets and like wood around it so it was insulated, and we had put it up on pallets and stuff, so we had essentially built like a small studio apartment room out of it.
Yeah, you built your home.
Yeah, like, and so when they swept that, like, that was a pretty big deal for us because we had put a lot of time into like building it, and it wasn't really like an eyesore or anything. At least I thought. Like we we're not really, like, some people just like throw all their garbage and shit on the ground and be just nasty motherfuckers. But like I think we tried at least not to have like trash everywhere and stuff and get it thrown away. But I guess that doesn't really matter. And then the second time I've noticed that every time we've been swept, our effort has lessened too, because we another sweep is coming eventually. So like, why put in the effort? Like,
Yeah, sure.
and we're on top of that, like, we're kind of banking on trying to like get into these tiny homes too. So like, we don't want to get too invested into like setting up a camp or a spot out here, I guess. And then on top of that, I don't know, like having a tent and stuff like that is also hard in these kinds of communities, because if you're not actively in it or having somebody watch it regularly, like there's a lot of theft that happens, like a lot of inter-community theft sometimes, and it doesn't make sense to me why people do that stuff either, because it's the same shit just ends up circulating amongst the same X amount of people, you know what I mean? Like oftentimes the things that have been stolen from me, I've seen them less than a week later, in the hands of somebody that was like my friend or that like lived a couple blocks away. Like it's ridiculous, and like it's not really to any end or purpose, because it's not like they're stealing from you to like sell it or like like accomplish anything. They just, I guess, take, because the more things, material possessions they can have, the more of a sense of like, I don't know, stability maybe they can have.
Right. Interesting.
I don't know.
That's an interesting thing to think about. Yeah, maybe a sense of even home.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, that's the kind of one of the American dreams that we were sold, is the more stuff you have. And like, it's just ingrained in us. Like
most of the RVs I see, they're usually pretty trashed, honest. Like there's some people that keep their RVs nice, but I've noticed that RVs are the things that have the most trash around them, honestly. And like, especially out here in Ballard, a lot of the people I've been meeting that have tents and stuff, like most of them actually have like I looked into this lady's tent earlier this morning that I met and was talking to, and like she had like a nightstand, and like a beanbag and like flowers and a window. And I was like, damn girl, like you're making the best of this shit. Like, it looked like she had a house already in there. So like, I think it's kind of about like what you make of the situation too. Like if I wanted to like try to get a big tent and like make a home out of it, like I guess I could try to put the effort in to do that, but like I've systematically had pretty much anything of any sentimental value stolen from me over time anyways, and so like I wouldn't have really anything to put in it, and honestly like I don't want to get anything that's expensive or worth anything until I can have like walls around me, to like keep my things safe and my partner safe. And
kind of adds more stress.
It does. It really does. So like the less stuff I have right now, the better,
Nora, is there something that you'd want to say to the people of Seattle?
I guess I just don't understand why people who have homes and apartments and whatever, like, I don't understand why they look down so heavily on people with like tents and RVs and the homeless, because like I do see that there, you know, there's drug addicts and there's, you know, trash places sometimes, and some of the people in the community aren't always the best, but like in my 2.5 to 3 years of experience, like walking around different homeless encampments and tents and meeting people, like for the most part, like these people are just like also like nice, caring people that have lost their home or their jobs for one reason or another, and they're just kind of all in similar situations, but like that doesn't make them like shitty people, it doesn't make them thieves, it doesn't like they're all just still people that want to be treated like people. And so I don't understand why these people with like homes and stuff look down on the homeless so much, because by setting up tents and RVs, like all they're really trying to accomplish is the same thing that you people already have, really. Like, and I get that you guys want to keep the community clean, and like keeping the trash picked up and stuff is understandable, and but like that's got to be a group and a community effort too, because like a lot of the people that are making the trash and the waste they're those, I guess, the problem people in a community. But every community has its problem people, you know, and it takes community to deal with those people. You can't just like ixnay the entire community just because there's one piece of crap living there.
That's right.
So yeah.
Thanks, Nora. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no
It's
problem.
good to hear your voice and get to know part of your story, and you know, I'm sure there's obviously a ton in there.
Yeah.
Oh, is there anything else you want to say?
Not really. I mean, we're just trying. I just really hope that the whole tiny house community thing works out. Like, I've noticed. I think that according to the numbers, there's only like 10% as many tiny houses as there are like homeless people. So even if they were to fill up every single tiny house, that would still leave like 90% of the homeless people homeless. And I think they're trying to work on a solution by doing what they're doing right now too, which is like when you've been in the tiny houses so long, they like graduate you to some sort of apartment complex run by Lehigh. And so like I've noticed more and more people getting semi-permanent housing and stuff, but well, I don't want to talk about Lehigh. They're not. Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no problem.
Awesome. You open for a hug?
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem, bro. Thanks for talking with me.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a couple photos.
Okay.